You asked and asked and asked for the next part, and of course, I delivered. Okay, maybe I didn't exactly, after all the next part was supposed to be Fukurodani, but here we are with a little extra special from MSBY, so you can be excited for Sakusa action again. This also can be seen as a sequel to Fake It Till You Make It, however, you do not have to watch that for the context. It's just a nice little bonus information, and now let's go! However, before we start, allow me a short little shameless act of self-promotion. Is this button you see there? I have memberships now and I'm so excited for it. For now, there's only one level that has small little perks, but I'm so excited to share this with everyone who wants to can now support the channel by joining as a channel member, for which you get loyalty badges, customized emojis you can use in live chats and comments. You get a member shoutout at the end of every video and your comments will be prioritized when I reply to them. I'm really excited. Of course, only do it if you have the money and if you want to, but check it out if you like. And now, let's actually go with the video. Atsumu. Hey, Atsumu. What? Is something wrong, Ami? The blonde looked up at him, startled. He blinked a couple of times, his eyes zeroing in on the ace slowly. I should ask you that. He tried not to let the cute tilt of his head distract him. Atsumu had the unbelievable ability to look like a lost puppy when confused. It was painfully adorable and brought Kiyomi time and time again into embarrassing situations. Even worse, inside the confinements of his apartment, he wore no mask to hide behind as a subtle blush slowly tainted his cheeks. Not that Atsumu didn't know by now that he had the taller utterly wrapped around his finger. I'm fine. He turned back to the sink, the tips of his ears turning pink, but there was tension in his expression. He pressed his lips together and worried them between his teeth until Kiyomi could see the faint hint of red appearing. Blood. Atsumu, talk to me. What's wrong? Concerned, he put the towel aside and shifted toward him. Upon closer inspection, the setter looked even more disheveled. He was sweating and a worried crease appeared between his brows. His hands were trembling slightly. Why do you assume something is wrong? Well, for starters. He gently reached over and took the plate Atsumu was washing from his hands. You have washed this plate for the past 6, almost 7 minutes. Now that's oddly precise. Can't take your eyes off me? The sly smirk appeared on the blonde's face, causing Sakusa's eyes to soften. He loved the smirk. It was infuriating and managed to make his blood boil every time, but it was so Atsumu. He wouldn't want to have it any other way. If I say yes, what do I get in return? He leaned in a little, teasing. Atsumu's breath staggered a bit. Perhaps you could tell me what's on your mind? Ami, not fair. The ace chuckled, dried his hands off and wrapped his arms around Atsumu, pulling him closer. He kissed his cheeks tenderly, where a subtle blush started to blossom. Please, Atsumu. I want to know what's bothering you so that I can help, just like you always do for me. The blonde sighed and gently loosened the embrace. He too dried his hands and quickly cleared the counter. When he spoke again, he didn't look at him. I just don't want you to take it the wrong way. His heart seemed to stutter and he had to remind himself to breathe. It was hard not to jump to conclusions when the warm, reassuring eyes so stoically refused to face him, but he had to stay calm for Atsumu. Stay calm. See? That's what I mean. He kept Sakusa's cheeks. You worry too much, and there really is no good way to address this. No, please. I want to know what you're thinking, even if you decide that I... Don't you even dare finish that sentence. He looked at him sternly. A small sigh echoed through the room, but when Atsumu looked up again, he smiled softly. You're such a pessimist. You know that, right? So I've been told. It was a little hard to speak with Atsumu squishing his face together. It must have been an increasingly odd sight because the setter laughed and finally let go of him. He followed him to the couch and they snuggled up together before Atsumu started to speak again. He seemed more comfortable being close, but still, his gaze stayed focused on something in the distance Kiyomi couldn't see. I've just been thinking. Tomorrow, the break will be over. The next season is about to start and we gotta return to practice. That's how it goes. I thought you'd be excited though. I mean, you missed them, right? Of course. I'm sure Sho has a bunch of stories, and Bo probably won't shut up about meeting Akashi again. It's just... things are different now. How's that? As far as I can tell, you're still the same idiot as before. Atsumu scoffed. Rude. A chuckle resonated in Sakusa's chest. He knew what the setter was referring to, but the thought made him nervous. Do you want to tell them? About us? No. There it was. His chest tightened slightly, though he knew he shouldn't have gotten his hopes up. The way Mia was bashing through all his walls was dangerous, but every attempt to stop him was futile, and after a month all he did was watch the destruction with fascination, and a newfound spark of passion ignited in his heart. Who would have thought he could get burned so quickly? Please, don't get me wrong, I like you. More than that. He sat up. Finally, this piercing gold looked back at him. It was so much warmer than everything he'd ever known. Too warm, perhaps. Kiyomi, please don't look at me like that. Confused, his brows pinched together. Like what? Like you expect me to pack up and leave. Are you not? The setter's eyes widened and he froze. Suddenly, the gold got covered by a thin veil of tears and Sakusa gulped in shock. Atsu. Of course not! Why would you even think that? I love you, Kiyomi. I want to be with you. Why would you just... You... Don't just accept this as if it was obvious. It rattled him to the bone, seeing Atsumu so infuriated at his indifference. Yet it hurt much more to see him so distressed. Hey, Atsu, it's alright. I'm fine. No, that's not fine. Don't prepare for me to leave just like that, because I won't. I won't. Not unless you tell me to. He got quieter toward the end, and it broke his heart. Okay, but I won't. Please stay. He tugged at his hand, and without another word, the setter flung himself back into his arms. I'm sorry. I don't want this to fail. His words were muffled by Kiyomi's shirt as he held him close. I get attached to people easily. I hyper-focus on them, and sometimes I come on too strong and rush into things. Plus, in recent years, I felt like... Sakusa felt his own throat tightening as he heard the strain in Atsumu's voice. He couldn't decipher the reason for his sorrow, yet desperately wished he could take it from him. Like what? Like, the people I've been with valued my reputation more than, well, me. Like they would only be with me long enough to earn bragging rights, or, you know. He didn't, but he also didn't feel like he should press the issue. Instead, he pulled the setter closer, stroking across his back soothingly. It's okay. We'll go at your pace. But you... I got scared for a second. But I don't need a public speech to be sure. Your reassurance is enough. I believe you. He heard a soft sniffle echoing from where Atsumu hit against his neck and his heart clenched. Thanks. Of course. Atsumu was still tense when they walked to the gym. He was visibly uncomfortable and continued to throw unsure glances at the ace. Sakusa in return didn't know what to say to reassure him that he didn't mind. He wouldn't leave because of something like that. All he needed to know was that Atsumu wanted to be with him, and if the only proof for that were his whispered words in the safety of their home, that was fine. For now. He took him aside just before entering the gym, repeating himself for the upteenth time, and Atsumu nodded slowly. Something was off, and Sakusa wasn't sure it just stemmed from his insecurities. His eyes were slightly glossy, and his cheeks still bestowed with a warm blush. But before he could ask further, Atsumu saw Hinata approaching from afar, and they proceeded inside, now separate. He'd have to ask him again after practice. Today, training was oddly silent. Sure, Bokuto and Hinata were their loud and energetic selves, but it wasn't the same without Atsumu's input. The setter was playing well as usual, but his movements were mechanic and practiced, far from his usual style. At moments he wondered if he was even aware of what happened around him. He didn't seem present. Sakusa gulped, the worry he couldn't shake off since this morning more prominent than before. Was this his fault? Because he reacted so poorly, or was this whole thing a general bad idea? What if the abilities on the court would suffer from the relationship? Of course, he wasn't the only one who noticed. Despite the blonde's forced smile and faint enthusiasm, they had barely finished the first set when Mian pulled him aside. Sakusa, do you know by any chance what is going on with Atsumu? He insists he's fine, but he wasn't. That much was obvious. Still, Sakusa shook his head. It wasn't a complete lie. He had a hunch, was sure that it was something he did wrong, but what, he didn't know. And he'd respect Atsumu's wishes to keep the relationship secret. I don't know. Why are you asking me that? You care about him, and Atsumu cares about you, so I thought maybe you knew more than us. Thanks regardless. It left Sakusa a little stunned, and he had to do a double take to make sure he understood him correctly. Was it that obvious? They weren't even together the last time they were with the team. He hadn't even realized how he felt about Atsumu. All they did was fight. Hey, Tsum Tsum! You sure you're good to go for the next set? You look pretty pale. Are you kidding me, Bokan? Of course I'm ready. Just you wait. Me and the prickly spiker over there will kick your ass this time. They laughed, and Sakusa didn't need to turn around to know that Atsumu meant him. He vaguely suppressed the urge to smile at his comment and force his face into a scowl. This was more like him. The next set they'd play together, and he would make sure he'd hit every one of Atsumu's sets perfectly. The game went great, and Kiyomi felt more and more at ease as it progressed, and Atsumu used his playful and risky attacks again, utilizing him from every corner of the court. His style was aggressive and unpredictable, leaving the other half of their team just as exhausted as him as they tried to chase after his volatile play. His muscles strained, and slowly Sakusa could feel the tiredness kicking in, but he embraced it. This meant Atsumu was finally back as the setter he was. It wasn't until the end of the set that Atsumu's struggles resurfaced. For the blink of an eye, his expression twisted into one of pain. It startled him. But when he looked closer, it was gone. A quick glance around showed that no one had noticed but him. Was he getting delusional? Did his worry cloud his judgment? Part of him wanted to end the set right there, to assure himself that Atsumu was okay, but the smile now plastered on the setter's face stopped him. Perhaps it was really nothing, in which case wouldn't it be much worse to make a fuss about it and potentially expose them as partners? He'd ask him after the set, but he had to ask. Shoyo! He watched the flash of orange strike forward and moved his own position and sink, adjusting his stance on the court when suddenly the dull thud of the ball hitting the ground echoed through the room. Atsumu's set missed. His eyes darted to the setter, noticing his labored breathing and glassy eyes. He turned toward them to apologize when suddenly his gaze became unfocused and he wavered. Sakusa was in motion before his brain could truly understand the action. He dashed to Atsumu's side and caught him before he could fall, but it didn't stop him from bringing both of them to the ground. Atsumu? He propped his head up against his chest, watching his expression carefully and shaking him gently. The setter's skin was pale and glistening with sweat. His eyes were red-rimmed, and upon closer inspection, he was hot to the touch. He looked sick. Atsumu! The noises around them swelled into a panicked mess, only kept at bay by Mian and the coach, who quickly made his way to Atsumu and Sakusa. Is he awake? Sakusa shook his head, a sudden lump in his throat taking his voice away. Did he hit his head, while falling or before? No. Okay, let's carry him to the benches. Can someone bring him a water bottle, please? Immediately, Hinata jumped into action while Sakusa lifted the blonde into his arms and carried him to the nearest bench as the coach instructed. He placed him down gently and batted his head in his lap as he settled down by his side. Gently, his fingertips traced the shape of his face, and he brushed strands of sweaty blonde hair from his forehead. It was so warm. He couldn't believe he didn't notice sooner. When Hinata reached them with the bottle, Atsumu wasn't awake yet to accept it, but Sakusa took it and damped one of the towels a bit before patting down the setter's forehead carefully. How could he allow this to happen? They had spent so much time together recently. Hadn't he been careful enough? He didn't feel sick, but there was still the possibility that he brought it into Atsumu's home, on his clothes or breath. How could it be that he failed to protect him? He'd make up for it. Almost tenderly, he wiped the sweat from Atsumu's face and neck and put little bits of fresh, cool water on the towel periodically to help him cool down from the fever. He wished they were home right now, that they would have never left for training this morning, so that he could draw him a hot bath right now and care for him adequately. I don't know what's more unsettling, the fact that Atsumu fainted so suddenly, or Sakusa looking at him like that. Thomas nodded slowly. He's obviously sick, yet Sakusa looks so gentle. Who knows? Maybe he's sick too. Lovesick. Hinata grinned wildly at his stupid joke, yet no one reacted, still too encaptured by this odd display of affection between their teammates. You? Ami? Hey. Relief spread within Sakusa's chest, and he smiled softly at the other. Atsumu seemed to have forgotten where they were because he simply smiled back and snuggled closer to the ace. It warmed his heart to see that he sought his company even when vulnerable, and he would have loved to indulge him, but that had to wait until they came home. Gently he coaxed him into a sitting position and offered the water Hinata brought. Here, drink something first, then we can bring you home to rest. Atsumu's brows pinched together in confusion before realization dawned on his face, and his cheeks took a worryingly dark shade of red. No reason to be embarrassed, Sumi-kun. You just almost face-planted on the ground. Bokuto laughed. Yeah, go home. And let your boyfriend take care of you. Sakusa stilled. He knew that he hadn't been subtle in his care and that this was utterly out of the ordinary for him. But still, they jumped to conclusions faster than expected. He didn't look at Atsumu as the coach approached him again. How are you feeling, Atsumu? A bit better, but... I know, you should go home. Sorry for acting recklessly. I truly didn't think it was that bad. Well, just do better next time. Now, do you think you can manage going home on your own? Cold shivers hunted down Sakusa's spine at the suggestion. I'll bring him home. He had expected to have to fight Atsumu on this, but they said to remain quiet and only nodded as the coach asked for his approval. The whole way home, they didn't exchange another word, and it was nerve-wracking. He made sure to support Atsumu so that he wouldn't faint again, but otherwise kept his distance, certain that the other was still mad at him and didn't want him close. Even once home, no words were spoken. Atsumu looked barely present until suddenly his eyes widened in shock. Kiyomi, what are we doing here? The sound of his name caused his heart to speed up. He couldn't be too mad if he still referred to him by his given name. What do you mean? I brought you home so you could rest. Yeah, sure, but this is your home. Oh. Perhaps he was wrong. He knew that they had only been together for a relatively short while, but ever since Atsumu had spent so much time here, he had become accustomed to his presence. Still, it was foolish to think Atsumu would harbor the same attachment. It was closer, and here I can take care of you better. I know where everything is, and I'm always... Stop that. He flinched, drawing back further. Sorry. No, that too. He struggled for the right words, where Sakusa racked his brain for a way that could make this easier for him. Atsumu, I know that you are mad at me. I get it, I messed up. But please, let me make it up to you. Mad at you? He hissed, looking at the ace, and this time the raven recognized what he had been looking for ever since this morning. In Atsumu's eyes burned rage. Mad at you? Why do you say such things? You always spout such nonsense. I can't with you. You... He let out a pained cry and leaned against the wall. Sit down first. No. Why are you like this? Why don't you get mad at me as you used to? Why do you say all that? As quickly as the seething anger had run hot through his system, setting his nerves ablaze, as quickly did it pass. His voice faded and he sounded almost broken toward the end. I don't understand. Atsumu, don't be stupid. Sit down before you faint again. He noticed the waver in his stance and rushed closer to catch him again if necessary. A bittersweet laugh echoed from the blonde at his words. Yeah, that's better. What, you like me more when I'm an asshole? He tried to harness his annoyance, fueled by confusion and frustration, but every time he thought he'd finally figured out the setter, he surprised him anew. I like ya better if ya don't talk shit about yourself and look at me like a lost puppy I kicked out on the streets. His voice was still bitter, but he wasn't yelling at him anymore, and Sakusa didn't know whether it was the lack of energy or if he had never meant to yell in the first place. I never... It was implied. Ya think I'll leave you the first chance I got. Well, newsflash, I won't. You think I'd get mad at you for the most arbitrary and minuscule things? Well, I won't do that either. I'm only mad because you're being such a dick to yourself. Sakusa stared at him for a long moment, unsure what to reply or if there was even any plausible answer to this other than... You're right. I know I'm a major hypocrite and jerk about this, but this doesn't mean that... Wait, what did you just say? You're right. I'm not good at being kind to myself. I'm working on it, but I relapsed. I'm sorry that it affected you. This time, it was Atsumu's turn to stare. He blinked slowly, clearly perplexed. What? Cat got your tongue? He tilted his head slightly, teasing. Atsumu gulped. Usually, people don't just admit that. I wouldn't have. Well, I'm not doing this since yesterday. I might only have been able to sever ties with my family recently, but I've worked years to undo the damage they caused. Still, not quite there though. His gaze darkened and he looked down at the ground disappointed. I'm proud of you. His head snapped up. What? I'm proud of you. I mean, this whole thing sucks. You shouldn't be the one who has to make up for their mistakes, but that's life for you. Stupid shit. Still, you're better at it than I am. I mean, look at me. He laughed and clearly meant it as a joke, but Sakusa didn't share that sentiment. He closed the distance between them and led Atsumu despite protest toward the couch to lay down. Perhaps you're right. At least I'll assume you are, if you continue to act like a baby about it. Mean? Also, to my defense, I truly thought it was mostly nerves, because I was worried ever since your reaction yesterday, about not telling them and all. Sakusa stiffened again, his hands digging into the blanket he got for Atsumu. Yeah, I guess that failed. I'm sorry. I should have been more subtle, but all I could think about at the moment was that I had to make sure you are alright. Aw, don't tell me, Ami. Do you have a crush on me? Whatever moment of sincerity they had was ruined in an instant. You were such an arrogant idiot, Mia. He shrugged his shoulders. So what? Better being the idiot than the one being in love with the idiot. Do tell, Ami, what does this say about you and your judgment of character? Obviously, I must be a masochist. He deadpanned, but Atsumu burst out laughing. A small smile played around Sakusa's lips, until suddenly the laugh turned into a cough, increasing in severity. He patted Atsumu's back soothingly, the sweat drenching his shirt, reminding him again that the other suffered a fever. I draw you a bath. You need to sweat out the fever. Afterward, I'll make you some tea and you can rest. sleep a little if possible, and... Why are you... I mean, doesn't this make you uncomfortable? Sakusa contemplated that for a moment, a little surprised himself that he wasn't keeping 3 meters apart at all times. Yes, it does. I don't like to see you suffer, and the sickness makes me nervous. However, you spent so much time here recently, it feels like I failed to protect you. The setter giggled again. You're silly, protecting me from germs. He laughed, and somehow it made Sakusa feel warm. He loves that sound. You will, however, take the guest bedroom. I will take care of you, but only if you follow my instructions. Of course, Nurse Omi. I'll be a willing patient. He rolled his eyes at that, having the slight suspicion that Atsumu would, despite his words, be quite the challenging patient to deal with. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, consider leaving a like and consider subscribing so that you won't miss out on anything in the future. I am so out of practice, but I'll promise I'll get the hang of it again. I hope you liked it. This was a longer part to make up for the long pause. And yes, now definitely Akashi, aka the team of Fukurodani, will be next. I'm very excited for it. On that note, check out the channel memberships if you like. These two are already channel members. Thank you so much, Ferret Flashes and Akira. I love you. Have a great and amazing day, everyone. And check out these videos if you consider them interesting, which I do.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.